After completing my Bachelor of Science in Forestry, my first job was a planning forester with Weyerhaeuser Canada, which is a multinational forest products company, a really big company based in Washington in the United States. And holy cow, that was 30 years ago. Unbelievable how time goes. Anyways, I really liked working there. The company was great. The colleagues that I was working with were really great. And one of the things I had an opportunity to do as a forester was to go and take classes out to the forest in National Forestry. You can take bunches of kids through the forest and we talk about the connection between economics and ecology. And I really love to do that. And this week it's my great pleasure to introduce to you two educational leaders who are really connecting youth to their watershed and beyond in their work. They're helping them understand the cumulative effects of multiple human land uses, natural disturbance, and very soon climate change. So Jennifer Janzen is the Executive Director of Alberta Tomorrow, and Dave Ramsay is the Executive Director of BC Tomorrow. Jennifer and Dave, thank you so much for coming and joining with us today.
Thank you, Barry, for having us.
Awesome. So Dave and Jennifer, as it turns out, are also the 2020 recipients of the CE Analytic Next Generation Award, which I will put a link to a video in the show notes after the show, where you can go see more about that. But you're going to understand why they got that award after watching our show today. So, Dave and Jennifer, so back to my story. After, I was working in Princeton for a couple of years, developing cutting permits for timber to feed our mills. And one day I had an idea. I knew that Weyerhaeuser owned some private land. It was forested land, right adjacent to Highway number 3 on the Crow's Nest Highway, goes through southern BC. And the land had a beautiful all-age stand of Douglas fir and ponderosa pine. There was big trees, middle-sized trees, little trees, and it was so close to the highway, the access was fantastic. So my idea was, I thought this would be a great place for us to be able to showcase the excellent forest management that we're doing as a company, and then also create an opportunity to connect to the schools. And in fact, forest management done really well can really regenerate and produce long-term benefits for everybody. So I thought this was an awesome opportunity. Jennifer and Dave, you guys like to take kids to the bush?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun. My favorite thing to talk about is slugs, actually.
We don't have those in Alberta.
We'll have to work on that. We'll work on that. Because you need them. No, I'm just kidding. So anyways, it got me to think, well, because I had this great idea, I'm going to try to put it into action. So I wrote up a plan and took it to my woodlands manager. Well, he didn't think it was such a good idea. Certainly not as good an idea as I did. And so he directed me to mark out this area to be clear-cut harvested. So after they clear-cut it, then they sold the land to improve our bottom line. A few years later, I was working for the BC Forest Service in Victoria with the government. And, there was an area out west of the city called the Souk Hills. And this area is where they collected all the water, the drinking water for the city. And for 100 years, they had been logging out there on this area called non-catchment lands, which is part of that watershed that didn't feed the water reservoir. And they'd been using the money from harvesting that timber to build all the infrastructure to bring water to everybody in Victoria. But they didn't need it anymore. They didn't want to do that, so the lands were up for public proposals. So I thought, a community forest, connected to schools would be a great idea. And it would be an opportunity for classes to adopt part of that forest. They could be involved in generating profit, which could then feed the school programs. This wouldn't be any burden on the taxpayer, this is going to be a good idea. It's going to work better than last time. So I founded the Greater Victoria Community Forest Society. It had a board of directors with a spectrum of representation from the region. There was teachers, moms, scientists, loggers, doctors. You get the idea. And we worked on our off time for 2 years and put together a whole, like a 100-page plan with maps and everything for an interpretive center and the whole bit for this area for a community forest. And we submitted that to the government. And that earned me a visit to the Environment Minister, Sihota's office. And I wasn't in trouble. He wanted to hear about this plan. So I got to share with him for 30 minutes, and it's really cool. That was the first time I'd ever been in a minister's office up at the legislature. So I was really excited, and I shared all the work that we'd done, and he was very interested, listened very intently. And at the end, he said, "That's it's such a great idea. Thank you for all of the work that you've done. Please share that sentiment back with the society." So I just floated out of the ledge. You know what it's like when you just aced an exam? That's what I felt like. I went, man, he loved our idea. So that night I went home and I turned on the evening news and there was a live broadcast from the Laurel Point Inn. And it was Minister Sihota doing a champagne toast with the Western Canada Wilderness Committee to designate the new park, the Sioux Hills Wilderness Park. Same area. No community forest. Try again. 2014. I'm working in Salmon Arm, British Columbia now, and I picked up the local newspaper, and there was an article in there by Barb Brower, one of my favorite writers. And she wrote this article about this crazy high school teacher who had gone off and done his master's in an attempt to create a program that would help students find balance in their watershed, because we had just been through this terrible thing in our community where they were looking to build a Walmart in the delta of our river, and the community was all split, and Dave thought there had to be a better way. So Barb had written this article. I went to see Dave at the school. I thought, man, this guy's right on the same page as me. And I said, Jennifer Janzen is doing this amazing thing over in Alberta. We should do that here, Dave. And he said, yeah. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's cue that awesome starting music and we'll get into it. Oh, come on, you can dance a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm not good at dancing. My kids don't even let me dance.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dave's kids. That probably saved us. Okay, you guys are both teachers. Actually, my mom taught for 40 years. And my daughter Cassidy's halfway through her education degree. I'm surrounded by teachers. What the heck? Mm-hmm. Actually, I'd like to be a teacher. I'm a teacher wannabe. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about you and how long you've been working on Alberta Tomorrow? Maybe just give us a little teaser as to what Alberta Tomorrow and BC Tomorrow are.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a teacher, I'm a naturalist. I started out being a biologist, actually. And after being a biologist, because I love the teaching aspect of biology so much, that led me to getting my education degree. So I taught for a number of years, and then life happens and I ended up having kids. And after having those kids, I was kind of looking for something a little bit more part-time and something that maybe combined a little more of the ecology. And so that brought me to Alberta Tomorrow. I was lucky enough to have a former parent who knew Dr. Brad Selfox. And when he heard kind of what I was looking for, he said, I know someone who you need to talk to. So he hooked me up with Brad, and we had a little chat, and that was 2005, 2006 maybe. Alberta Tomorrow had been around already for a few years, but At that time, it was free. It was online, but nobody really knew about it. And Brad and Matt Carlson had developed Alberta Tomorrow, but they weren't teachers in the classroom, so they weren't as well versed in how to get the message to the teachers. So that's where I came in. And when I started I guess I officially started probably 2007. And I started promoting it to teachers and going to teachers conventions and making presentations. And then really it was when my kids were in elementary school already. And oh my God, some of my former students were teaching my kids, and they they found
I go
out
awesome.
what I was they found out what I was doing. And amazing teachers that they said, hey, let's start doing this in the classroom. So that's how kind of we got started doing school visits in the classroom. So like I said, Alberta Tomorrow has been around for quite a while. So probably about 2003. And it was Brad and Matt Carlson's idea to have a tool that helped people understand what's going on the landscape, and to understand the cumulative effects of what's happening on the landscape. Because it's so easy for us to drive down the highway and see a forest and not really know that there's a whole lot going on in that forest. Or look at satellite imagery of Alberta and see the whole northern part is green, so it must be pristine, untouched forest. But the reality is there's a lot going on in that landscape. And we also can't just look at one thing in isolation. We have to look at, like I said earlier, the cumulative effects of everything. Yeah. So we're in version 6 of the Alberta Tomorrow simulator. So 6 versions since 2003. And we want students to take an active part in planning for a sustainable future. Nice. So that's what we do.
That's so cool. And for those who are already in our community, you know Dr. Brad Stelfox and Matt Carlson. Matt presented at CFX 2020 on doing cumulative effects using the ALCES model. And just recently, Brad was also the recipient of the 2020 CE Analytic Mastermind Award for all of that foundational work and all of the legacy that he's left. Dave, tell us a little bit about you, and maybe share a little bit, you've told me before, just bring us up to date a little bit on you, sort of the brief on BC Tomorrow. And then the thing I want to explore is you often talk about how students need a safe place to start. They've got great ideas, but you can give them that.
So I'm 30 years in BC public education system, and I've done all kinds of different things. I've been mainly working in the sciences, upper level sciences, all throughout my career, but I've done high level coaching and ran outdoor programs and taken kids on international and domestic trips, and so I had lots of different experiences. And when I was doing my master's, I reflected hard, and one of the reasons I got into teaching in the first place was, I love this province, and I got into teaching because I wanted to teach about BC and about the province of BC, and what I recognized early was that by exposing kids, I have a responsibility, and people don't know what they don't know. And when you expose them, what I see with students, it especially revolves around having success. There's a spark in their eye that happens, and so when I have the ability, I have lots of experiences and can bring topics to the classroom, and kids get a chance of feeling success. There's a sparkle that happens in them, and their passion and their enthusiasm and their energies are kicked into gear, and it's an amazing thing. And what I see with these young guys is they're smart, they're capable, but what they lack is experience. And we have that responsibility as teachers, is to open up these experiences and see if that sparks an interest, and away they go. And when it comes to the to the environment is that often they don't know what they don't know, and how can they apply their learning. And it seems like such a big world, and here we have this amazing tool that gives people in the classroom a chance to use their regular classroom learning and apply it to something important to them, which is their communities.
Wow. Very cool.
And so,
sorry, go ahead. Did I cut you
well, I
off?
was going to say it's sometimes it's with the way the structural parts of the school work. It's really often difficult to bring students into the environment, or bring the environment, or take them out into the community. So we have to work within the time constraints and budgets and busing, etc., and transportation. Those are difficult logistical things to work in the school. But we have this tool that takes the environment and brings it into the classroom. There's so many elements of this project that are meaningful and give the kids a chance to experience, so that when they go out in their own, they can see things that they've been experiencing in school, and they'll bring it back, and it fuels their passion. I've seen it in all kinds of things, and it's a pretty amazing thing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. And so for those who aren't familiar yet, as Jennifer was saying, Alberta Tomorrow's been around for a while. Dave and I came along later and said, hey, we could do a BC version of that. So we've been partnering and building off of, standing on the shoulders, I guess you would say, of Alberta Tomorrow. And we're going to talk about where that's going actually beyond us later. But, this show is about connection. And to me, these simulators, they're like time machines. And they allow us to connect ourselves to our past and to our future through maps that move and allow us to see how things have changed and how they could be. And Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about sort of the power of that, having a time machine in the classroom, and how students and teachers react to that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the time machine and the ability to see the bigger picture also. So I remember the last time I taught grade 11 biology, and I mean, I love ecology. That's my passion. And I remember beating myself up because I felt like I was explaining to the students what was going on the landscape, and they're like, nah. And it was like, I couldn't make them care. And just telling them about it wasn't enough. But when you can show somebody what's going on in the landscape, that's different. So yes, the simulators are like time machines. We can go back to the year 1910 and we can see what the landscape was like in the year 1910. So basically natural ecoregions. And by pressing one button, we can look at 110 years in seconds, and you can see the landscape changed a lot. And at the same time as the landscape changing, a whole set of environmental indicators changed and a set of social economic indicators changed. So the simulator allows you to see the change on the land and see the effect of that change on the land, on the air, the water, the wildlife. And because we have those two sets of indicators, the environmental and the social economic, you can kind of see the relationships between all the different dials. Yeah. And I think that's what is so amazing about the tool. And it makes it more complex because it is complex. All these things are interrelated. And it's just like ecosystems. Everything is interrelated. You do something to one part of ecosystem and it has effects. But the other thing that makes the simulator so amazing is that we can time travel into the future. And, people say, well, how do you know that's exactly what it's going to be like? And I say, well, I don't really know that, but that's what it's going to be like. It's not a crystal ball, but it's a prediction of the future based on all of the research and the data available to us.
Right.
And so we can time travel into the future and see if we just keep on doing what we have been doing, this is a likely future. And if you don't like it, then I guess we need to change some things. And it allows the students to create their own futures. So they decide where they want the landscape to change, and they decide where they want some of the different environmental indicators or social economic indicators to be in 30 years. And
Right.
they get to experiment and see the results of, making a change on the landscape here to that degree. This is what might happen in 30 years. And that's very powerful. It's powerful to grade 4s, and it's powerful to grade 12s. It's powerful to post-secondary. It's very powerful.
And I just, some of the interviews that we've done with students in BC reminds me, Dave, of a couple of students have talked about, and this is to Jennifer's point, that textbooks are boring. And just hearing a teacher stand in front of the room and talk or write on the chalkboard is boring, but the ability to get in and actually interact, and this is it's like a virtual reality simulator. It's like something they're used to in a computer or digital media, right? And so that it fires some other enthusiasm in them, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the finesses of teaching it. I mean, you have to give kids a chance to make topics meaningful. What is meaningful? I mean, talk about making, so you can look at all the different topics students learn, and to have meaningful learning opportunities for students really engages them. And this tool does that in spades. It's gives the kids a chance to manipulate the variables, look into the future,
and I think
try their own. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. I was just thinking, I think what you're tapping into there is that when we care about something, it's connected to our relationship with that thing, and so they actually get a better chance to establish a relationship because they're not bored right off the hop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the relationship. Everybody has a relationship with their community. We can't stand there and say this is how your relationship should be. They get a chance to explore on their own, right, and see things, and talk to their friends, and share their ideas, and look at the different indicators. And this is a priority for me to address this indicator. And another student will say, what about this indicator? And look what happens if you address that priority of yours, but what about the priority of these ones? And as Jennifer was mentioning, the way things are connected, it is complex.
Yeah. So we're going to show some screenshots of the simulators in a little bit, but I remember going into one of your classes, Dave, and asking the students, so who wants to play simulation games today? And they're all like, me, because that sounds like fun. If I'd have walked in and said, let's read an encyclopedia, I probably would have got thrown out. So, but you mentioned something really interesting, Jennifer, that you said all the way down to grade 4. So, I know as a systems ecologist in my work, I'm working with this in real life. The complexity is enormous, but grade 4, it's a great place to start. So, help me understand that.
Yeah, I think when the tool was still developed, I kind of thought grade 7 was the youngest grade that this would be applicable for. Yeah. And I have to give credit to those teachers that taught my daughter for recognizing, to tell you the truth, we used it first in grade 1. We did use it in a grade 1 classroom. We didn't have the students go on the computers themselves. We did it in small groups. But then those same teachers ended up teaching grade 4 the next year. And in Alberta, the grade 4 curriculum in social studies centers around Alberta and natural resource production in Alberta.
Right.
They learn about the ecoregions, they learn about natural resource production, and then the science curriculum in grade 4 has a unit called Waste in Our World. And so looking at their impact and how much waste they produce. So it was actually those teachers, Kara Vincent and Grayson Adams. Kara's actually on our board now and was my former student. they were the ones who said, we have to do this in a grade 4 classroom. And so we started working with their students, and everybody was shocked at how much these students understood. I had grade 4 students explaining the process of eutrophication due to excess fertilizer in runoff into water bodies.
Wow.
Grade 4 students explaining that. Well, in Alberta, that's a grade 11 curriculum connection. But, you know, they didn't know this word eutrophication, but they could explain the whole process. And then at the same time would say, so we have to be careful how much fertilizer we're putting on the land so that we don't have excess fertilizer running off into our bodies of water. And they get it. The grade 4s get it. And it's very interesting because because they're so young, they don't have a lot of, they haven't been listening to the news every day for the last 10 years. They haven't been listening to some of the hot button topics. And so they just say what they think. And like, well, why would we be doing this on the land? Because we know that it affects all of these things. And
they have clarity.
Yeah, and they do also recognize, you know, they don't know the term GDP, but they do also recognize that people need jobs, and a lot of our jobs come from natural resource production. And so they understand it's all about between preserving our environmental indicators and still being able to benefit from our natural resources.
Right.
But we have to do that in a way a little different than we have been in the past. And they get it. They totally get it. And lots of them have parents in the oil and gas industry or in the forestry industry, but they get it. So yeah, as young as grade 4, they use the simulator and they benefit from it a lot. Of course, it takes them longer. They don't spend a day or two on it. They might spend a week or two on it, but they get it.
Yeah, I've seen some of the videos of the kids that you've worked with there, and the clarity, it's great. They don't have the bias that you mentioned of, you know, being influenced by the media or politics or whatever. And Dave, you've done this in a few different ways in your class, but you tried it in the pilot in BC Tomorrow where you had older students working with younger students. So you have, tell us about that.
Yeah, I learned back in my coaching days, students teaching students is a powerful motivator. It's a powerful teaching tool. And so what I know when they're older, they have fairly sophisticated thinking. And so as a coach, I could only do so much. I'm going to grow this program. So what I taught my older players was, okay, guys, I'm going to let you go coach your elementary school. And so what happens is knowledge comes from them. I've put all this work and effort into the older guys, and they go back and start working with the younger students. And those younger students really connect with the older students. So now the older students are sharing their knowledge. So all of a sudden you have knowledge moving forward. And so what I found as a coach up at the top is now the knowledge base when they start is farther along. And so at each level, knowledge gets pushed up, which forced me up at the top to keep moving forward and to stay ahead of the guys, right? We're competitive, is not competitive, I guess, as long as we're winning. So I had to keep working at it. And then I thought, this is a really powerful model. And the same principle, I've done all kinds of work with my senior students, and we've examined all kinds of ideas, and we've looked at all kinds of relationships and connections. The younger students, as Jennifer mentions, they get it. And so what happens then is those older kids come down and start working with these younger students, and then the knowledge gets pushed forward. And so that way then, at the next level, knowledge is pushed forward, and then up at the top, we're farther and farther and farther. And we're examining more in depth. We're looking at relationships, we're looking at applications, we're looking at ways that we can use the knowledge to benefit everybody. And so it's a powerful method. It kind of means, you can think about a teacher being the person that teaches. You empower students to become the facilitators, and
Right.
and that way you're letting the students share, and it works really well.
Well, that's a beautiful segue into our next segment, which is the Forest of Whispering Speakers, and we're going to talk about a different way of communicating that. So let's move to there for now. Oh, it's a bluesy little riff, that one. As my favorite artist and poet Gord Downie says in his song, the blues are still required. And the Forest of Whispering Speakers is, I guess, an homage to the great writing of musicians and artists, and it's inspired by a line in one of Gord's songs, "For a Good Life, You Just Might Have to Weaken." And I've talked about that in previous episodes. And I've used, we've dipped into a lot of popular music artists and looked at the narrative, the lyrics, and how those things are sending the same kind of messages that we're talking about in this show. And I've scored Downey, and now I'm back to him again today because of our topic today. So for all Canadians will know the Tragically Hip, and they'll also know the kind of tragic story of Gord getting brain cancer and doing his last tour with the band in 2016. And the last song that they sang as a band together was called "Ahead by a Century." And it's definitely one of their hits, and I think it was really apropos that he chose that as the final song. And so I just want to dig into that, with the lyrics. The song, I've heard Gord talk about it in a few different live shows, but it's really about youth coming to age and having to deal with the world and what it's like to experience that. And so I'll just walk through my interpretation of a few of the lyrics. At the beginning he says, first we'd climb a tree and maybe then we'd talk or sit silently and listen to our thoughts with illusions of someday casting a golden light. And to me that's our dreams. As young people we talk about what's important to us and what our dreams are, and they're in this golden light. And that he says there's no dress rehearsal. This is our life. And it's this constant movement of time that we're all in. And so whether you like it or not, you have to deal with the world. And then the next line went, that's when the hornet stung me. And I had a feverish dream with revenge and doubt. And I think that's to me, thinking of it in this way, it's kind of like the realization of what it's like to be adulting and to see the struggles in the world and understand that it's really complicated and difficult, and maybe as a young person, you don't agree with the choices that those who came before you made. And I see this. I see a lot of young people rising up and saying, "Hey, what about climate change? And what about us? And what about our kids? And what are you leaving? And couldn't we do things better?" And it comes as a sting at the beginning, but then he says, "Tonight we smoke them out. We deal with it. We change. We change things." And Alberta tomorrow and BC tomorrow are catalysts for that change for young people. And then, the song goes on. You got to listen to the song. You got to listen to Gord really share the mood and the passion of his lyrics in the song. But in the chorus, it's repeated 3 times. You're ahead by a century. You're ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. And when I think of that, I think of these time machines, and I think of those 3 time periods, really. Centuries. The centuries before we had European contact in North America. And then, the last century or century and a half since then, and how things have changed. And now we're looking ahead to a century ahead with change coming from climate change and growing population. And I think in the last show in Kingston, he talked about that, and he said, "You're ahead by a century, and you can change. You can fix what we've done, and you can guide us in the right direction." And I think he was really reaching out to young people.
That song's always been very emotional for me. I remember hearing it way back when I was a teenager, and yeah, very powerful words.
Yeah, actually, last night I watched, I think it was on McLean's.ca, they have a recording there they have him singing that last song in Kingston, but they show all the people across Canada singing with him. And most people had a tear in their eye, too. Pretty deep. So, yes, I love to be able to continue to honor Gord. He's left so much wisdom in the lyrics and then with the band through their sound. All right, let's move ahead. So deep. I'm going to move to this next segment, which is another one of my favorites. And that sound usually strikes fear into my guests. Because now the power of live stream really comes on. So no, this is fun for me, but it's rapid fire questions. It's an opportunity to get to know you sort of outside of what you do. And it's usually really interesting and kind of funny. And so the way I usually do this is 10 quick questions, 10 or 11 quick questions for the guest, and they're short answers, so no paragraphs allowed. This time, because we have both of you, I'm going to alternate. All right, so, and I'm going to, ladies first, of course. Jennifer, are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Favorite color?
Blue.
Oh, see how easy that was? Dave, what's your favorite number?
9.
9. I was number 9 in hockey.
Oh, my daughter's number 9.
Oh. I wanted to be, but everybody always toes it.
Oh, you should have been 99 like Gratz.
Yeah, ahead of my time.
All right, Jennifer. Cake or pie?
Oh, cake.
Dave, texting or talking?
Talking. All caps. Hashtag face to face.
Keep it real, hashtag.
Yeah. Keep it real, yeah. Well, see, so like, I agree. Little video clips are not too bad of a compromise. Jennifer, if you could take students on a field trip anywhere in the world, where would you take them?
Rainforest.
Any particular one?
I might have to change. You know what? Iceland is amazing. The variety of landscapes in such a small area is stunningly beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, and not much ice there, ironically. Dave, yes, you can. If you could take a field trip anywhere, and I don't know if you're going to say, you're not allowed to say Burgess Shale.
No, I won't. West Coast to BC. West Coast Trail, West Coast to British Columbia Rainforest, West Coast to BC.
Wow. That temperate rainforest, magnificent. Like Iceland, so diverse. Many unglaciated areas. Awesome answer. I want to go. I want to go to both of them. Jennifer, does technology like the internet in the classroom make teaching easier or harder?
Do I have to explain it, or I say easier or harder?
Just choose one.
Harder.
I would say so too.
But better. Harder, but better.
Okay. Dave, what's one thing you do in the morning to get jazzed up for your classes?
Get jazzed up. I get excited about the topic. Like every day is a good day. I love interacting with the students, and I start thinking about what we're going to do and how much it's going to be fun and what is the best way to make it fun. And yeah, I just get into
paragraph.
Sorry. teacher.
I have so few opportunities to be cheeky with teachers, I'm telling you. Jennifer, jeans or dress?
Jeans.
Dave, tank top or t-shirt?
T-shirt.
Jennifer, what's for supper tonight?
Pizza.
Nice, I'm coming to your place. Dave, would you
I'll
rather
make
do
pizza.
laundry or dishes?
Huh. Dishes, because then I get to interact with the cooks, and I got lots of them in my house.
All right. Jennifer, hashtag or bookmark?
Lately, it's been hashtag necessary evil of marketing these days.
Dave, what's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Whoa, gosh, octopus?
Ooh. Yeah, and they're so smart. How could you do that?
Yeah, hunger is a great seasoning.
My strangest, I just have to share this because I was thinking about it when I wrote it, is dirt.
Oh,
I was showing my kids how to do graininess testing for clay and silt. Yeah. Jennifer, early bird or night owl?
Neither. I need my sleep.
Yes, we all need our sleep. Dave, Wi-Fi or 5G?
I don't know much about 5G, so I'll have to go with Wi-Fi.
Okay. Jennifer, when I dance, I look like?
Oh, I look like a Ukrainian dancer, probably. Very like.
Oh, like this one?
Well, that's the guys got to do the fun stuff.
Dave, would you rather do Gangnam Style or the Locomotion?
Locomotion.
Thank goodness. That's 2 saves we've had today. Jennifer, from a scale of 1 to 10, how hot do you like your shower water?
9.
Yeah, me too. Dave, is it better to ask permission or beg forgiveness?
Ask permission, be upfront.
I agree.
Transparency.
I know you've had lots of experience with both. Jennifer, would you ever eat a bug?
Oh, I have.
Nice. That's cool. Now, see, there's an icebreaker at a party.
Yeah.
Dave, have you ever had a mustache?
Oh, yes. Yes, I realized early I'm not a big fan of facial hair.
I want to see that. I really do want to see that. All right. So let's move on. We could talk for hours and hours. I just love this topic. But we're going to move into the next segment, which is the CFX library, where we always ask the guests. I'm going to turn off these name tags. They're kind of in our way. Can I do that for myself even? Somewhere in here I can. I'm doing so much better with the tech right now than I have in the past. So the CFX library is a segment that I started where each guest shares a link or some reference or something else to read, a book or a website or something for people that are really interested in this topic and they want to go farther. And so we've queued up a few references. Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. And I'm just going to bring up the one you suggested, and I think we'll go to picture-in-picture down the bottom there. So, yeah. The Alberta Tomorrow website is albertatomorrow.ca.
Mm-hmm.
What should people do when they get there?
Well, it's so hard to explain what the simulator does without actually seeing it. So what you can do is go to the website and scroll down a little bit. And we have a promo kind of intro video, why we exist. But further down, we also have 2 videos that kind of explain how it's been used in the classroom. So there's one called The Power of Alberta Tomorrow that has quotes or interview clips from teachers and students. There's another one about Alberta's new curriculum that we hope to see soon, and how Alberta Tomorrow was ahead by a century. We were already doing what educators think the next curriculum should be doing, and that is, making real world connections and having students explore their own backyard and that whole systems thinking. So that second video there does really show how we used it in a grade 4 classroom. And that little picture that's right there on the thumbnail for the video is a representative from the government, the provincial government, who actually came to the grade 4 classroom. He had received all their letters talking about what Alberta should be like in the future. And he stood there in front of 2 classes of grade 4s and directly addressed their letters, had them right there and said, so this person thinks that, we should do this with fish habitat, and talk about empowering for students. So I would direct you to watch some of those videos. You really get an idea of how Alberta Tomorrow affects students and teachers.
Awesome. And so people can go there, they can watch that. Those are great ideas. That's a brave man to stand in front of those grade 4s. I would have been terrified. And then they can sign up as well. So albertatomorrow.ca, which is really carving the path. And then BC Tomorrow is coming along, Dave. Here's the BC Tomorrow page.
So
Very
we
similar.
are, yep, we are the beneficiaries of Jennifer's experience. So based on Alberta Tomorrow, we have very similar. So we run parallel, but we're in BC, things are a little different. There is a how to get started and how to log in. If you scroll down a little farther, we have, similar to Alberta Tomorrow, an introductory or an overview video that kind of gives a high-level picture of what BC Tomorrow can actually do, and the challenge to students to see what they can do and plan. And like Jennifer, we've had lots of experience with students. There's a couple of images of the simulator. And if you scroll a little farther, you'll see from our pilots, early in our existence, what we did was develop our own learning materials, and we used Alberta Tomorrow simulator. So the pilot on the right is students using our videos and BC learning materials with Alberta Tomorrow simulator. And then to the left there, we have a very early version of our BC version of our own simulator. And in both cases, the student reflections and testimonials, teacher reflections, just like in Alberta, it shows the power of this learning tool to engage students, give them a chance to see those interconnections, and understand a bit more realistically how the importance of planning and how our relationships with the natural world and the economy exist.
So, back to my first story at the beginning, third try, and with some great leadership from Alberta Tomorrow, and Jennifer in particular, I finally got to connect youth and watersheds through this vehicle. And so I'm happy to be the president and co-founder of BC Tomorrow, working with Dave and Jennifer, trying to bring the level up in British Columbia. We've been a little behind because we have to get all the data and get all the algorithms and everything updated. And as you heard Jennifer say, they've been at it for a long, long time, longer than us. So we're catching up. It's really exciting. For me, it's the realization of a dream that I had many times before, and maybe an illustration for people. Just don't give up, keep trying. And Jennifer, we have this new thing here called Canada Tomorrow.
Yes. So Canada,
that?
Yes, please. www.canadatomorrow.ca. We firmly believe that we need a tool like Alberta Tomorrow and BC Tomorrow for every province and region of of Canada. So this is our new Canada Tomorrow initiative. The goal is to make a version for every province and territory. And the issues that we're talking about, although they're, slight localized changes the whole concept of understanding what's going on in the landscape, being able to look into the past, being able to look into the future, make connections between everything, balance the environment with the economy, recognize that trade-offs are necessary. We can't have everything, and see that change is possible. If we don't like the future, that the predicted future, we can make another plan, change our ways, and we can change that future. These are not ideas that are just for Alberta or BC. They're concepts that are applicable to any region in Canada or
awesome.
beyond. So that
awesome.
is our goal.
And I see three goals there: expand to over 500,000 students across Canada, develop an Indigenous module, which Dave and I are trying to help you develop with some partners here in our board as well. And then, yeah, I understand Dr. Stelfox has been working on a COVID module. It's just an incredible initiative that, honestly, it seems like there's no end of potential. And this is a great place for everybody to get involved. So you can get involved in, don't forget about Alberta tomorrow and BC tomorrow and just going to Canada tomorrow. Let's do them all together. Let's make sure Alberta tomorrow and BC tomorrow continue to have great successes, and they'll pave the way to take it to other parts of the country. So that's awesome. That's I think that might be my most favorite CFX library contribution yet. Kudos to you guys. I give you both an A+. I've never graded a teacher before. I don't know if I'm even allowed to do that. But anyway.
No, I don't know.
I just invite, we're coming to the close of the show here. I'd just like to invite people to check out my stories page on my website, www.barryjwilson.com, or search the hashtag cumulative effects. I'd ask you too to hit subscribe here on this YouTube channel. A couple of reasons for doing that. One, it helps us extend our reach and get all this great information like Alberta tomorrow and Canada tomorrow and BC tomorrow to more people, right? We need to help share the word. So that's a big thing you're doing. When you subscribe, you're telling the YouTube algorithms, this is good stuff, show it to other people. And as well, I would encourage you to share this video, with social media, and get connected with Alberta Tomorrow and BC Tomorrow on social media and get in the conversation and get yourself signed up. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Dave, for helping us. Thank you for, Jennifer, 20 years invested in this. Dave, what are we? We're getting into our 7th year on this. I can vouch for both of these leaders. The thousands of hours of their free time have been given to the students today and the future for this, and just really honor that. You guys are champions, and thank you so much for doing that. And thanks for joining us here on CFX, The Connection of Things, and sharing all this great stuff with everybody.
Thanks for the
Thank
opportunity.
Yeah, no, I'm really honored to be here.
It's important we all think about these things.
I think we're going to put the at-issue panel to we're going to give them a good run for their money, don't you think?
Well, I'm not sure.
Well, I might be overstepping just a little bit. But anyways, as we go to finish, I'm going to say cut, print, and check the gate.